Good morning, YouTube. Bonfire Thoughts here again. Today I'm going to be talking about competitive gaming in general and why recently I have taken a break from a lot of the competitive games that I play, and why I think that if you play a lot of games like me, you should do the same. But before we get into it, please, if you enjoy my content, do consider giving me a like and a sub. It would be greatly appreciated. Every single one means the world to me, and I'm really enjoying making these so far. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get into the topic. So modern gaming in general feels very centered around competitive play. Now, there's nothing wrong with competition. In fact, growing up for pretty much my whole life, the only types of games that I did play were competitive games. These were your League of Legends, Overwatch, Counter-Strike every now and then. And I was a pretty big sweat in Call of Duty back when it was good. But recently, I've found myself shifting away from competitive games in general. Now, there's nothing wrong with playing competitive games in general, but a lot of companies nowadays, especially Activision, the people that make, Call of Duty, have implemented, it almost feels more like a store simulator now than anything, where the gameplay is secondary and they're just trying to keep the masses playing the game for as long as they can so that they'll sink more time and more money into it. But at the end of the day, the games are just not fun anymore. I've completely quit Call of Duty altogether, which is insane because out of all the titles that I mentioned, it's probably the only one that I played every single year, year after year. I remember when I used to have a PlayStation 3 and I would play like Modern Warfare 2 and 3 and Black Ops. And at one point, I didn't have access to my PlayStation, and I would play split-screen Black Ops 2 with my brother on his Wii U because I wanted to play Call of Duty all the time. And, back then, it was fun. There were sweats here and there, but for the most part, there was, a very fun gameplay loop. There wasn't all this SBMM and EOMM that's in all the games now. And everything just felt a lot less predatory and manipulative. If you log into Call of Duty now, you can feel it. It's so blatantly obvious how rigged and how manipulated the matchmaking is, and there's just a bunch of shady stuff with Activision, and a lot of the issues that people bring up and rehash time and time again and talk about constantly are things that could be very easily dispelled by Activision themselves if they would just make statements on them. But at this point, it's been year after year of non-stop slop, and now things are just getting even worse with their extremely poor integration of AI into their, I almost called it a creative process, but at this point I'd be surprised if there's even a person behind the screen making their skin bundles. But either way, the point is, competitive games for the most part now don't feel too terribly rewarding to play. The only competitive game that I still play on a fairly regular basis is Marvel Rivals, and even that game is having its own share of controversy right now. I haven't touched League in almost 2 months now, and just the other day they completely removed honor capsules and level up capsules and all this other stuff, and now there's basically no real form of reward for your gameplay in League anymore unless you play ranked. And not only that, but as someone who plays a lot of Twitch and a lot of AD carry and some mid lane from time to time and even some jungle, my main role for over a year at this point has just felt completely useless. Maybe not over a year, but a really long time, months and months, and I'm so tired of it. But in general, competitive games nowadays just don't feel very fun for people who are slightly above or slightly better than your average player. Even when Delta Force released, it was touted as being the next, big Battlefield competitor, and I've already uninstalled the game off of my computer because after like 5 games it felt like I was just fighting carbon copies of myself. Every gunfight was 50-50, everyone used the same meta tactics, and there's just no variety at all. And it just gets really boring, honestly, after a while. It gets really, really, really boring. I won't gloat or toot my own horn, so to speak, but I've always been very above average, specifically in like first-person shooter type games, like very, very, very above average. I won't name my rank or anything, like I said, but I am, generally speaking, a very high elo player when it comes to FPS games, at least, across the board. So, as someone who is an above average player, I can tell you firsthand it does get extremely repetitive and extremely boring when every single game there's absolutely no variation, whether it be the weapons that they use or the heroes that someone picks, or the best equipment, etc., or the best perks or whatever. And I get that, even if someone's not a very above average player, they might see a YouTuber be like, oh, use this, or this gun outclasses this one, maybe they might try it out, but I've seen some of my friends who aren't necessarily as good as myself play in their lobbies, and it looks like a completely different world. I mean, people are using the most random guns, the most random setups, or just doing these really weird tactics, and it looks like a lot of fun. And they come to me and they say, hey, why do you always complain about SBMM or this, that, and the other? Because from their perspective, when they play the game, being the average player, the game is fun because they're not good enough to compete, but they're not bad enough to get stomped. That's what average is. And for them, they're gonna have a consistently fun experience. But in most competitive games, and mind you, when I say competitive, I'm not talking about like Marvel Rivals ranked. This would be like a quick play type of thing. So games that integrate these competitive matchmaking systems into their quick match or their supposedly chill modes that are just kind of meant for you to relax and not have to take the game too seriously. And Call of Duty, they're probably going to get brought up a couple more times in this video because they're the worst offender by far of this. The skill disparity between me and my girlfriend was so unbelievably massive that the skill-based matchmaking system made it borderline impossible for her to play in my lobbies on Call of Duty. I had to get into matches and blow myself up with a grenade over and over like 30 times and absolutely turbo nuke my KD just to be able to even play with her. And even when I could play with her, I had to use, meme loadouts or snipers only or stuff like that so that I could force myself to not absolutely just massacre the lobbies that she was in. Because if I played how I just normally would, well, Call of Duty is going to see me going 60 and 20, for example, and then be like, alright, we're going to put this guy in his normal lobbies. Now for me, I might be able to perform in those lobbies, but all of a sudden, my girlfriend gets dragged in there with me because we're just trying to chill and play together, and all of a sudden, she's not able to even go 1 in 10. And she's fighting for her life every single gunfight, and it just makes the game so incredibly lonely because it's literally impossible for me to play with my friends and have them enjoy the game at the same time, because if they try to play with me, they're forced to either get stomped or I'm forced to lower my own stats just to be able to play with them. And once again, I'm not saying that to brag, it's a real issue. And it makes me not want to play the game. Not only does it make the game just not fun, but it actively makes me want to not play it. It makes me want to go do something else because I'm not only having no fun, I'm having a bad time. The experience is actively being ruined for both parties. Because I, the above average player, cannot just play what I consider normal my girlfriend, who is just an average player, has to fight for her life every single gunfight, every single life, every single death if she dares queue up with me. And the worst part about everything I just said is that happens in what's supposed to just be the core modes, the quick play modes. Not CDL, not competitive, not any sort of competition mode, just regular everyday matchmaking in all modes. Now, I say all modes as a general term, but honestly, actually, I wouldn't be surprised if they had SBMM and things like Infected, let's be real. But the point being, it's just not fun. Playing video games should be a recreational thing that people do to have fun and relax and de-stress. There's no reason that when I'm in a quick play mode, trying to play with somebody else who might be either above or below my skill level, there's absolutely no reason that either of us should not be allowed to play together for fear of one of us getting stomped and the other one just trying to play as normal. Now, recently, my girlfriend got into trophy hunting. She plays on both her PlayStation and PC, although her computer has been giving her a lot of issues recently, so she's decided to just stick to playing games on her PlayStation. And that inspired me to go ahead and re-download a lot of games, one of them being the one I'm using for this background gameplay footage, which is Metal Gear Solid 5. This is, without a doubt, one of the best games I've ever played. And I'm using it as an example because it's a single-player game, it's 9 years old, it does have a multiplayer function, albeit you're not really fighting other people, to my knowledge. You're infiltrating their base or whatever, but I haven't done any of it yet. I'm still pretty early into the game. But my point is that I'm playing a game and I'm having so much fun. More fun than I've had on Call of Duty, more fun than I've had on Marvel Rivals at times, and easily more fun than playing League of Legends solo queue. Every time I close the game and get off of my computer to do some real life things, I'm always constantly thinking, man, I really want to play Metal Gear Solid right now, or oh man, that last mission was so cool, I infiltrated a base, I got some really good people to add to my team, and I cleared it perfectly, full stealth or whatever. And I don't think I ever would have tried this game if gaming in general for the competitive side of things wasn't in such a rough state. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. Every competitive game, even the good ones, just if you're an above average player, it just feels really easy to get burnt out on. And another game that I've been playing a ton is Fortnite. And I used to make fun of people that played this game. As a matter of fact, this game, I actually played it when it came out. The very first week that Fortnite released, me and my friend downloaded it and we played a couple of games, and I thought it was the silliest thing I'd ever seen, and I uninstalled it after like a week. But recently I got back into it. Well, I shouldn't say recently. I played it for a couple months 2 years ago, but towards the end of last year, I got back into it, and I've been playing it pretty much every day. And honestly, it's probably one of the best modern examples, I guess you could say, of not even really competitive gaming, because in general, Fortnite just has a lot of stuff to do. There's tons of islands, there's tons of different modes, and even in the primary mode, the Battle Royale, I mean, I don't even play the build mode. I just play zero build and run around with my friends, and there's no pressure on whether or not we get a bunch of kills or anything. We're just running around together trying to work as a team. But the game feels much more like a game that's designed for the sake of having fun first. I have a really good time when I hop on Fortnite and just chill with my girlfriend or my homies, and we'll play like Murder Mystery or something and just dance together, or we'll play like the Battle Royale and run around and try to win. Or the festival mode, that's another thing. I've never actually played a rhythm game, and now I'm starting to get good enough at the festival mode on Fortnite to play like the harder difficulty songs, and I never ever would have touched that if it wasn't for my girlfriend. As well as just competitive gaming, like I said, not being very much fun right now. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to compete 24/7, and if you're someone like me that played a lot of competitive games growing up, or still do play from time to time competitive games, I would highly recommend just find some single player games. It doesn't have to be Metal Gear Solid. It actually doesn't have to be single player. It can be Fortnite. It can be any game that's just fun or has a really well thought out story. I'm a big fan of Berserk personally, so I've also been playing Berserk in the Band of the Hawk, and that game is a ton of fun. It's a hack and slash. My girlfriend got it for me because she knows how much I love Berserk, and I had never played a hack and slash before. It's my first one, and I'm having a blast. So, my message is this. If you're someone who plays a lot of competitive games and you feel kind of burnt out but you don't know what else to play, look for some good single player games or some good chill co-op games that you could play with your friends that don't require any sort of competitive play. You might just find something that might become one of your favorite series of all time that you'll play for years to come. I'd always heard of Metal Gear Solid, but I always thought that it was just this silly espionage game where you run around and you beat up your own guys and then they salute you and say, "Thanks, boss." And you know, to an extent it is that, but the game is fun. A lot of fun. And it feels like it was designed with the player in mind. I'm having more fun playing it than I've had in the past couple months playing anything else. The only exception is Fortnite, honestly, and the Berserk game. And I know that Fortnite has a lot of in-game monetization, but the game is free. And it honestly feels much less aggressively monetized than Call of Duty. And I do have a lot of fun on that game because it doesn't feel like there's some rigged matchmaking algorithm or some crazy urge to do good all the time. No pressure, no stakes, just have fun. So that's why that is the one exception to the rule in my opinion. But anyways, my closing thoughts are this. If you're burnt out and you play a lot of competitive games, but you don't know what else to really try, just go on Steam or go on your PlayStation or Xbox store and just look at some single player games and look at some stuff that when you look at it you're like, I don't really know what that is, but that actually looks kind of cool. It looks like something that could interest me. Maybe a character on the splash art catches your eye for the game's front page, or it's got a cool title. Whatever it is, just find something that looks like it would be cool or interest you. Maybe watch a couple videos on it, and if people give it a lot of praise, then go ahead and try it out. I would definitely say to keep an open mind as well, because you might not think that you would like it based on the genre, but I never thought that I would enjoy hack and slash games, yet here I am playing Berserk in the Band of the Hawk. And I've always hated battle royales, but here I am enjoying the crap out of Fortnite. So don't close doors before they're open to you. Try something new that looks like it's made for you. You don't have to fall in line and just play a competitive game 24/7. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have fun and just relax after a long day. Whether you're coming home from work or coming home from school or a really long trip, find something that interests you that you would want to play, that can be a haven for you to just go home and relax without the pressure of having to compete. But anyways, guys, I've been Bonfire of Thoughts. You've been a wonderful audience as always. Please have a beautiful rest of your day.